I was approached by Adam and Tertia from the Hackney Music Development Trust to write something about the Negro Leagues and about Shadowball. And to tell you the truth, I knew nothing about it. With an appreciation for the civil rights movement, I just felt this was a part of the story that I really needed to become familiar with.
I went back to the history of baseball, which I hadn't been familiar with for quite some time, since boyhood, really, and discovered the story of the Negro Leagues and the connection between what was going on in Negro League baseball and jazz musicians. And then it was really just a matter of, who were the important players and whose stories were we going to sort of tell. And we left that mainly to Mike Phillips, the librettist.
I think the fact that I was working with children took me back initially in my own memory.
I play Charlie, who is one of the main characters.
My role in Shadowball, I'm playing Cab Calloway.
So much of what I saw and that I wanted to put on paper came from those first experiences, like the hot dog sellers. I never forget sitting there in the baseball game and a guy coming down from the back and he's going, "Hot dog! Hot dog!"
Cab Calloway was one of the famous jazz stars in the time of the Negro Leagues, a very famous jazz star to be precise.
It's 120 students on stage with one professional performer. That is not an easy task. I mean, we do not audition the children. It's chosen by school, and 2 schools that we have been working with.
2 schools that I know quite well, as someone that's lived in Hackney all their life. Kingsmead School and Jubilee School.
I was born in Hackney myself, and it was really a great opportunity to work with children from Hackney, and also the beautiful music and the great libretto was just so inspiring. I thought it's just a great opportunity to be able to work with young children and introduce them to the theatre. Might be the first experience they've had of it.
I think the idea that kids can embrace jazz and sports just was a really interesting challenge.
I've done many workshops with children and spoken to them about jazz, and I think doing that with the purpose to create something that they were going to be in just made it all the more poignant and all the more relevant for them and for me.
I couldn't believe when I started that they would be as good as they turned out to be. And that's been a very, very humbling and instructive experience for me.
It's the first time I've ever sang in front of quite a lot of people, because it only ever used to be like the only person that's heard me sing is my sister if I was singing in my bedroom.
Well, I do sing to a lot. I go to my school choir. It was different because it's like acting and singing put together.
I was scared at the auditions, but then when people started hearing my voice, they said I was good, so I thought I might as well just let myself go and start singing.
And there's some amazing kids that we're working with at the moment that I'm sure this project's going to be really life-changing for them.
Someone was saying to me yesterday about the production, and they're saying, those children don't go to music school? I said, no, they're ordinary primary school kids.
We had to go into the schools and we had to work with them and give them a sense of ownership of the project, even before we'd even started working on the artistic structure of what the piece was going to be.
The thing that's so inspiring about them is their energy and interest, and so the way to work is to really engage them in what you're doing and give them as much ownership as possible in the creative process, so that they're really part of the experience of creating the work and then part of the experience of performing it.
I don't think we would have even got to play or learn about baseball if it wasn't for Shadowball.
We went to Kingsmead School to have a game of baseball with them, and it was really good. And after that, they made a baseball club at our school. So
children have got this wonderful way of engaging with the world, and it's up to us to find a way of hearing that.
We're not just creating quality performance art. We're trying to get the students who participate in it very deeply involved in the subject matter. So in this case, it's about discrimination, it's about teamwork, and I think that they definitely do empathize with the historical characters that we present.
I've learned a lot about the segregation.
when black people and white people weren't allowed to play together.
Black people made their own Negro League.
They weren't allowed to be treated the same way, not like today, because everybody's equal like these days.
So much of a change from here and then, so yeah.
And it's taught us about players and what time segregation happened, and players like Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson and Jackie Robinson, and like their stories and about Ella Fitzgerald and some of the jazz stars.
If there's 120 people working together, then it has to be a team or it's never going to work. And that's what's really beautiful about this, with the director and the composer and the librettist and myself and the musicians, and just really pull it all together to make it work, to present something for these kids, present a really great platform for them. Really, because that's what it's really about. It's a vehicle for them.
Because this is jazz. Jazz is mostly the blues, but this is a bit different.
It was fun, like to learn more about jazz and the ways that they do jazz with the band and stuff. It was good.
Some songs are really happy and cheerful, like one of the songs called Sunday Afternoon. It's really jolly, and jazz is just a bit swingy, and you want to just get up and do a little boogie.
That's what's great about jazz music, because when it's democratic, you know, when we're all working as a unit, that's when it's great. There's nothing like it.
But no matter what happens, whenever we do these productions, it always is, you know, a hard process for the students to get used to these skills, but in the end they always pull it together and put on a great show.
I hope the kids have just enjoyed being a part of a great musical and historical experience. I want them to feel they know something about jazz, to feel they know something about the history of the civil rights movement, some of the major players, be it Josh Gibson, Satchel Paige, Buck O'Neill and Jackie Robinson, the great jazz people, names of those guys, and that their inquisitiveness will get them one day to connect some of these dots up. But I just hope they enjoyed performing and maybe discovered something about themselves as performers that they can take into their lives.
But the confidence of going on stage, speaking to people, standing up in front of a huge crowd of people, and doing what you have to do without being scared.
It's about not forgetting your past. And I think in the show, Satchel says that at the end, you know, it's about not forgetting where you came from. And that history itself, you know, your history has a very important impact